Hello! Today I'm going to show you how I decorated this pumpkin cake just in time for the fall season. Previously, I baked and iced together two 6-inch cakes and put it in the freezer for 3 hours to harden. I started out with cutting the cake into the shape of a pumpkin. I made 6 vertical triangular cutouts using a large serrated knife to mimic the veins of the pumpkin. I made the sections slightly uneven so it looks more natural. Then I shaved off the sharp edges so they're more rounded and smooth. Kind of like this. Very carefully, I supported the cake while cutting a triangle off the top and the bottom of the bump outs. Then I deepened the veins in the bottom and the top. And then continued to round out all the harsh edges. It should look kind of like this. Then, when holding the knife at a 45-degree angle, I cut out the top of the cake and then continued the vein lines into the new top until it looks something like this. I iced the cake in a thin layer to help the fondant stick and put it in the freezer to harden up until it was ready to be covered. Next up, I created the stem of the pumpkin. I mixed multiple food gel colors together with modeling chocolate to make 4 separate colors, 2 larger greens and 2 smaller yellow. The colors that I mixed together were yellow, green, blue, red, and a little bit of black. I then flattened the modeling chocolate down and then cut them into small strips, rolling them out slightly. I pressed the strips together, alternating the colors until there is a striped pattern. Then, I lifted the pieces, split them up into thirds, stacked them on top of each other, and rolled out the chocolate. After it was rolled out, I folded it in half and then repeated until I was satisfied with the pattern. Then, using my fingers, I shaped the modeling chocolate into the desired stem shape. I then made small branches out of the bottom of the stem. This is what it looked like in the end. I then colored my fondant. I had white fondant that I colored with gel food coloring to make it yellow and mixed it with a pink fondant that I already had on hand until the color was sufficient, and wrapped it in plastic wrap until I was ready to use it. Now it is time to put all the pieces together. I put a small amount of vegetable Crisco onto the clean counter so the fondant would stick. I rolled out the fondant until it was 1/4 of an inch thick, at least 18 inches in diameter, using a heavy rolling pin. I then rolled the fondant onto the rolling pin and draped it onto the cake that I took out of the freezer and put on a cake stand. To make sure that you're able to see all the cuts that were made, I lifted the fondant and aided the fondant with my hands into the bends of the cake. This can be a slow process, so I took my time and tried to get it as smooth and even as possible. Once it is mostly down, I cut the excess fondant off with a paring knife. Using the back of my finger and the side of my hand, I continue to smooth down the side. I cut off the rest of the excess fondant and tucked the edge under the cake so it looks seamless. Using a tool with a rounded edge, I made the veins of the pumpkin deeper and added a secondary and tertiary lines on all the bumps and continued with the indents on the top. Now for adding some detail, I mixed together water and a few food gel colorings to make a deep brown. Using a food-safe paintbrush, I painted the color into the deep parts of the veins, slowly building up the color, starting with lighter and getting darker as I go. I used my finger to smooth out the harsh lines and to make sure that it is seamless. Using the same brush, I splattered some of the brown and some dark orange color onto the pumpkin. To add the stem onto the pumpkin, I put 3 toothpicks into the stem and placed it into the top of the cake. I used a veining tool to add striations onto the stem and to poke holes on the top to add some texture. I used the same colored mixture that I used on the cake to the stem and darkened it to look more natural. And it's all done. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed.